to have respect for what is there, and certain areas, and especially Citizen, has a certain a soul, has a certain atmosphere, and I think if you can keep that and you can rebuild it in something new, then your project can only get better. I can never recreate the feeling that is there now with something completely new, never. So then the choice is easily made, no?
40% dintre cei care ne urmăriți în mod frecvent sunteți și abonați la canalul nostru, ceea ce mă flatează și vă mulțumesc foarte mult pentru asta, sunteți foarte generoși. Fac pe această cale apel și la ceilalți 60% care ne urmăresc și care încă n-au dat subscribe la canalul nostru. Ne ajută foarte mult dacă ați face-o, e un buton simplu, un efort foarte mic pe care l-ați putea face. În schimb, ne ajută mult pentru că crește valoarea acestui canal și putem să atragem astfel invitați din ce în ce mai faini, cum este și invitatul de astăzi pe numele său Jan Demeyer, CEO, co-CEO și co-founder al companiei Speedwell. Pentru că vorbește românește, dar foarte puțin, voi schimba în engleză. Însă pentru cei dintre voi care vreți să vedeți subtitrarea în română, puteți să schimbați subtitrarea de la YouTube în română și mai departe să puteți să aveți traducerea direct ca să fie mai ușor să urmăriți, pentru că va fi un podcast pe cinste, vă asigur. Jan Demeyer este unul dintre cei doi asociați parteneri în compania Speedwell, unul dintre cei mai dinamici dezvoltatori din România, cu proiecte în București, Timișoara și Cluj, în special pe rezidențial, retail și industrial. Sunt oameni faini, îi cunosc de mulți ani și urmăresc de mulți ani. Partenerul s-au și fost aici cu noi în studio în urmă cu aproape un an. Dar Jan vine dintr-un alt unghi, o să fie chiar o discuție faină despre ce înseamnă dezvoltarea imobiliară în general în România și în lume, el fiind la bază belgian. Așa că stați până la cap pentru că vom vedea multe întrebări și răspunsuri faine de la oameni care sunt dedicați la firul ierbii. Așadar, mut pe engleză, Jan, welcome to our podcast.
Mulțumesc pentru invitație.
It was easier than I thought.
And there it stops.
Jan, I just said to the people listening to us that you are the better half of Speedwell.
There's no better half. There's no better half.
Just kidding. I said that you come with a different angle. Basically, you guys make a complete team as far as I can see from afar. Maybe you can tell us a bit about how you two guys divide the responsibilities and manage the entire company. Because so far, in less than 10 years, so basically less than a decade, I think you're going to come to 10 years exactly this year, right?
Exactly this year. We'll have a small birthday party, yes.
Okay, so we're going to celebrate.
Yes.
In less than a decade, you basically guys managed to become one of the most respected developers in Romania. And this is not a small thing.
Yeah, thank you very much for these very kind words, I have to say. 10 years, yes. 10 years, you look at the last 10 years, but in fact what we have learned, we have more than 30 years of experience now in real estate. And in the end, we decided 10 years ago to start our own development company. So I'm an architect, so excuse me for that. And Didier is also a civil engineer, so we combined our forces. And in fact, we worked together on a lot of projects, in Poland also, and in Russia. That's also some time ago. We worked together, and he was on the project manager side of the table, and I was on the architect side of the table. So we fought a lot. And you know the saying, if you can't beat them, join them. So we joined forces. And that is now almost 10 years ago now that we joined the forces.
I think it's a good combination between the, let's say, pragmatic side of the business, the development part, and let's say the creative and the visionary part, which is basically mostly to the architects of any real estate development.
Well, how we divide the work, Didier is really the figures guy. He really plays a lot with figures, and I'm not so good at that. And he can draw a line. I can draw a good line. So that's where we divide the work. And it's true that we are very involved in the project, and that's maybe one of the reasons why we go so fast. When we see a plot of land, we say we can develop a plot of land, I immediately make a sketch, he immediately makes the calculation, and we can take a decision very fast. So that's how we proceed today. And still being involved in all the architecture, because I think it's very important in any development. Quality of living is hugely important. But of course, we're also here to make money. I think any business is here to make money, and otherwise business would not exist. Sometimes people say, you do it only for the money, but that's not true. That's not only for the money. We really are very deeply engaged in our projects, and it's almost a calling. I call it at a certain time. It's a decision when you look at a project. You say, okay, I take off a level because the quality will increase. It's not an easy thing to do if you're only looking at figures, and that understanding between the both of us we have. So yeah.
So when Didier comes with, let's say, a situation in which you need to basically, let's say, align on the decision, and he comes with the pragmatic part, do you agree with him, or most of the time he agrees with you?
Well, let's say, like in any good marriage, behind closed doors there are sometimes discussions, which are always healthy.
Okay.
But let's say it's maybe the other way around. I try to make the project on a certain scale, and then he adapts the figures, and he says it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Okay. It's very simple. So he can say, okay, we need so much square meters because there's the feasibility, and the feasibility has to be there. If I tell him, sorry, I cannot do that within those limitations I have for the quality of living, then we both decide to throw it into the garbage bin. And I think the last 10 years, more than 130, 40 projects ended up in the garbage bin.
Because of the fact that the bottom line wasn't as positive as you guys wanted.
Exactly. And we're all both eager in what we do, and we like difficult projects. Sometimes I remember when in the beginning one of our investors came to visit Romania, and he saw some of the developments, all the blocks next to each other. I said, you have to do that. No, it's easy. You have to pay the architect only once. Copy. And you just paint every building in a different color, and you have a nice project.
This is what the communists thought of urbanization.
Yeah. And then I said, no, this is not what we want to do. And I'm very happy that you said that we are respected, because for us that's very important. Not only to be respected, but also to be trusted. I think that's a very important word. Trusted as a developer, that we're going to finish our project, that we're going to walk the talk. And that's where we are both, our heads are in the same direction from that point of view.
It's very important, to gain trust, you need a life.
Exactly.
But you can lose it in a second.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And of course, we do make mistakes. Building buildings is not like a correct science. You're dependent of so much people to do your job and to express your vision, and accidents happen down the way. I think that's typical for any development, but at least we try to solve them, and in fact, if there is a mistake, then we solve that mistake, and that's the trust that we built with our people.
I like that. I'm gonna get directly in the big questions, and you said 2 or 3 phrases before about the fact that you like complicated projects, or let's say complex projects. Yeah. If I look at your evolution in Romania, I know some things also about the other experiences in some other countries, but let's speak more precise about Romania. You started with let's say more like standard projects. Maybe standard is not the right word, but without so much creative, looking, like Triama. Yeah, yes. I can say that. You agree with me? Okay. Yeah. And later on, up to our days, you got involved into one of the most complex projects in Bucharest, which is Griro. Yeah. Citizen, as you guys branded it. Yeah. It must be a major challenge, because you basically need to use a major part of the actual constructions. For the guys that don't know, Griro is a former industrial site on Grivice area, on the Grivice Street, in which, because there are some monuments, right?
No, it's not a protected area even. It's not a single monument on that plot of land.
But you still chose to use part of the buildings.
Yeah, we like to make life complicated.
This is really interesting. I mean, anybody in your position would say, okay, let's demolish everything.
Yeah, and former plans were made like that. Former plans were made to destroy everything. You know? And I think that's a little bit our soul is to create something that is embedded in the culture of a city. And that means respect for the past. I always say fara pretensie, is that correct? No?
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
So to have respect for what is there, and certain areas, and especially Citizen, has a certain soul, has a certain atmosphere. And I think if you can keep that and you can rebuild it in something new, then your project can only get better. I can never recreate the feeling that is there now with something completely new, never. So then the choice is easily made, no?
It's somehow easily made. I mean, in the end, it must be much more expensive doing it this way.
It is.
Probably you also have the challenge of not reaching the entire coût of the land. Basically the total number of square meters that you are, let's say, led by the law to do it, because you choose to use basically part of the actual constructions.
Yeah, but that I think you have to look at it both ways. Within that current construction, and by doing a certain concept, we can build new. But what was the basic concept of Citizen is to create public space, and around that public space to create buildings. That's a completely different setup. Most people, they start, okay, we put buildings, and then we see, where do you have a place for a kindergarten? We have 2 square meters, let's put a rocking chair there or something. That's not the fact. We said, okay, it's a really central location. It's a very challenging area. You have the railroad on one side. And it's also challenging because, well, as I said, of these old structures, but we found a way to translate the current structure in the public spaces, not to let's say object the new developments. And it was I cannot put all the effort on us personally, because we took on in our hands one of the most renowned master planners in Europe.
Okay.
That's
so you had enough of help.
Yeah, we needed help. This project needs an input with a lot of knowledge and experience. And we took Secchi. Secchi is from Milan. It's a very famous master planning office. And we in fact, what we did, we wrote to, I think, all the 4 or 5 biggest architectural offices in Europe.
Okay.
The names Foster, Rem Koolhaas, OMA was also there. And even Bjorn Engelsen from Big was also one of the most famous architects. And they all said, yes, we want to do this project. And that confirmed, okay, we have a good location. But the disadvantage was that most of them wanted to do the project completely. That's from start to end, from master planning to each individual building, to each individual bench. And I said, no, that's not what we want to do. Because again, embedding is very important, local culture. So I said, I want somebody who makes the master planning. And then the architecture we will divide over different famous Romanian architects. So also this was an important issue for us. And Secchi said, okay, for me that's not a problem, I believe in that, so I will design the volumes, I will design all the public spaces, and then it's up to the local architects to continue from there. And that was 3 years ago already.
Wow. 3 years ago, and basically you didn't even have the chance to put one brick on the plot. No. For the people that say that, the profits that real estate development begets in the end are so huge. Just think about this specific case. So you paid like 20-something million euros? Or
it's a bit more, but let's not go into the figures.
It's even more. For the plot of land, so basically money that are capital that is blocked in the land. And for 3 years, you had only costs of architecture, urbanization project. You didn't have the chance to get the building permit.
No.
In 3 years.
Not even PUZ.
Not even PUZ.
So we know after PUZ there's another 2 years to come. So
okay.
So that's a huge challenge. And I think what we face a lot is doubt. doubt from public authorities. You say you will do this. You say you will do that, but you will never do it. You will just construct one shop and then you will leave the area. Yeah, okay.
So it's a total lack of trust from the authorities.
Yeah, it's a total lack of trust for the moment. That's absolutely true. Yeah, really.
But
and even if you look at cities, it's an empty industrial area that the city has grown over the years. It's there. It's dirty. We want to clean it up. We don't even want to destroy it. We want to put greenery in there, everything in there, and still it stays difficult to convince people that we want to do that. So, yeah.
Tell me something. You come from Belgium.
Yeah.
You're grown in Brussels?
No, I was
in Antwerp.
Well, the city I live in is not so big, but and Belgium is not so big. So Belgium is in fact one big city.
Okay,
so I'm living in Kortrijk. It's a small city close to the French border. Yeah.
The French border. Okay. Each time I go to, I have some friends, good friends in Belgium.
Okay.
Actually, also a partner of mine in another company. It's living in Allons. Allons is close to Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And each time I go to either Belgium, either Germany, either France or Switzerland, or even Holland, Netherlands, the Pays-Bas.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't need to do these mistakes anymore. Holland is not the country, it's the Netherlands. Yeah. I try to use the train as much as I can. Mm-hmm. So I go to the central station and start going between cities, between different regions in which I want to go. And I can't. So let's say differently. I see all the time, the limits of the train lines being very well developed. Mm-hmm. You see, even residential developments, office, of course, you have retail, of course, you have hotels, but to have also residential developments. 10 years ago, I thought it's sort of urbanistic mistake. Who would like to stay there? Yeah. The noise of the trains, but of course there are laws which obliges the train mechanics not to use the homes in the city. Now 10 years later, I see it as a big opportunity. Yeah. In Bucharest and most of the cities in Romania have the same problem. Have this area around the central station and around the train lines very undeveloped. Mm-hmm. And you guys now with Citizen, which basically lies between Strada Griviței and the train lines, very close to Gara de Nord, to the Northern Station, you are raising the flag and say, look guys, this is a big opportunity for the city to develop and look like a modern Western civilized center.
Well, I understand that reaction very well. Honestly, when we proposed the site to our Belgian investors, they said the same thing. Oh, it's next to the railroad. Mm-hmm. And then we had to even show them different examples, like you were saying. Holland is a very good example, or the Netherlands, you call them. It's a very good example. A lot of developments have going on around public transport, but it's logical. If you look from a historical point of view, the station was where everybody arrived in a city, and you got all sorts of people there. Okay, and rich people didn't go to that area because it was the area where everybody arrived in a city without any money, who was looking for a job. It was also prostitutes area most of the time, the railroads area. And what we saw, since they really developed public transport, and it was even at a certain moment chic to take the train. I don't take my car anymore, I take the train to Brussels. It's like, okay, I'm thinking about the environment. So the whole culture about public transport changed. And then certain people saw a benefit in that. And then they said, okay, we have to be close to the station. And they started doing offices and they started doing retail. And those areas evolved very fast and very well. So my point of view, okay, we still have a lot of work with Chef Ferrés, I think. That's still something to tackle. But it will go that direction, I think. Once the private cars become more expensive for everybody,
and the parking and the taxis and everything,
it will become a better area. And then that in combination with what we love to do, not only complicated but also mixed projects. I think I'm a really strong believer in the 15-minute city. That means that everything that makes city life qualitative you should have within 15 minutes. So that means that shops, kindergartens, schools, fitness areas, everything should be within 15 minutes, so you don't have to take the car anymore. And from that point of view, if you look at some people have to sit in the car, especially Bucharest north-south. A lot of people live in the south, come to work in the north. What you see is that they spend 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe sometimes to 4 hours per day in a car. And what about your quality of life? You get nervous at work, you get nervous at home because you want to be at home because your kid is at home, you still want to put him to bed, you hurry up. If you have this within 15 minutes, 2 advantages: your family life gets much nicer, you don't get so let's say excited anymore to go to work. You have more liberty to leave the work to eat at home, and the most advantage thing is that you spend also money in the local economy. There's local retail on the ground floor, there's coffee shops. Instead of sitting in your car and just spending oil for, let's say, the east, you spend it local. Or energy, yeah. So, there are a lot of ways, but I think the 50-minute city is the way to go. Of course, we cannot oblige anybody to work in that area where he lives, but again, public transport connected to that is hugely important. Yeah. And that Citizen is a great example for that.
The 15-minute city is a topic on the list that we prepared. I would like to stay one more minute or 2 more minutes on the topic of the railroad, the train lines and the central station. You know that there's a project of, improving the facades and the interior of the North Station.
Yeah, so.
And this might come with a new opportunity for all the other plots of land on the Calea-Grivița in Bucharest and the other Grigore Duca was the name. Yeah. But I saw this kind of urban regeneration projects also in some other cities in Romania. And I started to believe that this is the decade of urban regeneration projects around the train lines. I saw it in Timișoara. Actually, you guys with Paltim are kind of close to
very close to the train station. Yes,
the train station. It's under project City of Mara, there.
Yes.
I saw in Iași a big project that basically is a reconversion of an industrial area.
Yeah.
Exactly on the train line.
For sure.
Yeah. In Brașov, the same thing. In Cluj, the entire west to east part of the city is the former industrial area, close to the train lines that are basically is now the most underdeveloping area in Cluj. Yeah. So I see it as a big opportunity. Maybe this is the moment in which we start to see opportunities also in places like this, because it's clear that the city cannot stay with a big island of happiness around a big territory of unhappiness in the center of the city.
Yeah, it's true. I think there are 2 main reasons for that. The first reason is that, like you said, a lot of industrial has been developed around those areas. If you talk industry, you talk about bigger pieces of land. So these create the opportunity to do something. But again, I think if you really look at all the station developments that have been done, especially Netherlands has done amazingly. Also in Belgium, we see it also in Luxembourg, everywhere. It works. And that's the main asset. It works. It works in the center of the city. You have everything there. And the train stations, a lot of, let's say, big architects have recreated stations to make them like almost cultural temples, you call it. So, I think it's a good move. And I really hope that Bucharest moves in the same direction. Because we are not believers in building big apartments, buildings outside of the ring road. I think that's wrong. We also have this ESG strategy now, everybody. We have somebody in our office who is Yannick, who's doing our ESG strategy. I'm from an older generation, of course, but we follow the ESG strategy. So environment is a very important part.
So you have a person in the company who is handling ESG issues?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
With main focus only on this thing?
Yeah, main focus on biodiversity, all strategies, solar power, all these things are becoming hugely important. And I think they are important, and we try to follow them, of course. But again, within the ESG strategy, also redeveloping brownfields in the city is the way to go.
I like that. We are involved in a project called NZEB Expo.
Oh, yeah.
NZEB Expo with Marius Șoflet, and we're going to speak about that later.
Yeah.
Let's come back to your developments in a couple of cities in Romania. Now, you have experience in Bucharest, Timișoara, and Cluj, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other cities?
Yes, we also now bought a plot of land in Brașov.
In Brașov as well.
Yeah.
And of course in Corbeanca.
And in Corbeanca. Ostratu, exactly.
In Ostrat. I was at an event on Sunday.
Yeah.
Mihai Morar, you know Mihai Morar?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. It's called Fine and Simplu. He does this kind of conferences around Romania, and this time was at the Athenaeum in Bucharest with a couple of guests. And at the beginning he asked, okay, who's from Bucharest and who's from outside of Bucharest?
Yeah.
Then I said to myself, okay, Corbeanca, where does it sit? It sits to Bucharest or sits outside Bucharest?
Well, we still see it as I think Corbeanca is the most developed satellite city of Bucharest. I would call it like that. So city, you cannot call it city, but it's the most developed satellite around Bucharest.
It's even more than Pipera or Voluntari?
Pipera is a different animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a satellite, it's actually a planet
yes, exactly.
by itself.
Yes, exactly. No, but I think it's important for us as developer to spread also over different projects. Like you said in the beginning, we do industrial, we also do offices, we do residential. I think the housing market is something really we also believe in. The client is king. It's very simple. Some people want to live outside of the city. They want to have a garden where they can play with the children and they can have a barbecue, have a swimming pool. I think that there's also a market for that. And also we try to, in fact, give quality to that market. What we designed it's Glenwood is the name of the project.
Yeah. Glenwood Estate.
Glenwood Estates, exactly. What we created in Glenwood was like not again the very orthogonal development, but a more organic development with streets there where the traffic goes slow, a lot of greenery, a lot of places where people can play sports. I think we can pick a bit of that market too. Yeah.
I like it. From Timișoara, Cluj, Bucharest, let's keep Brașov on the side for the moment.
Yeah.
Which one delivers better? And by delivering better, I'm talking about both bottom line, let's say financially, but also, for your heart.
Difficult one. The first project we did was in Cluj, and I think it was the first real mixed project that was developed in Romania.
Record Park.
Yeah, Record Park. Yeah, exactly. And again, there was also building old stables in there. The building was absolutely almost deteriorated. We couldn't see anything anymore. Was not protected again. And then we took the decision, okay, let's try to refurbish that building. Let's try to put it again into its former state. And when we started taking out things, we saw there was an incredibly beautiful steel construction there that we completely refurbished. A decision, again, that was not profitable, because you don't make money out of that. Can be very, very serious. But again, now that's the beating heart of the whole development. So certain decisions you take are not profitable, but are profitable because you create life, in fact, in a project. But Cluj, I always carry my heart for Record because it was the firstborn. You always remember, of course. Difficult permitting also, very difficult permitting. Again, question of trust. You cannot do this. We said, okay, we're going to build a kindergarten, we're going to do a sports area, a swimming pool. No, you're never going to do that. No, it's impossible. You're just a requin immobiliar. But we did it.
You didn't learn the right words in Romania.
Yeah, for sure. But we did it, and again, now it's still a very beautiful project to visit today. We have offices there, we have restaurants there, co-working there, residential. It works very well. One of our people who did the project management, one of our first employees, by the way, still lives there. So it's 10 years ago, lives there and says it's absolutely great because she takes the kids to the kindergarten, goes to the fitness, goes to work and is back home in 5 minutes. So that's the biggest reward you can get as a developer, that people say, I'm happy where I live. So Cluj, nice. From the profitable point of view, we were just there before the prices went crazy. So of course, as a developer, you're happy that you're selling. We sold in the beginning. We didn't get to the high limit. So it was profitable. Yes, it was profitable. It was good. Timișoara was the one where I would say from permitting point of view, it goes better. We just bought another piece of land in Timișoara, 1st of June.
Yeah.
And that's very, very typical. Everything that we bought almost today was an old factory. So
that 1st of June is like a mythology for the people from Timișoara.
yes, for sure.
Anybody that was crossing, around the factory, I think had this question in mind: when will this plot of land, when it's going to be developed?
Yeah. But the one we bought in Cluj was a textile lingerie factory. Timișoara, Paltim was a hat factory. 1st of June, textiles for children. And in Brasov, it's also a shoe factory. So
you like factories?
Yeah, apparently we do. As I mentioned, we like difficult projects. No, but Timișoara is good from permitting point of view. They have a city coordinator, which I would recommend to any city in Romania to have a city coordinator that, in fact, makes the communication between the private and the public more easy.
I think it's the same as in Oradea.
Yeah,
has the
exactly.
same thing. Yeah.
Exactly, and that works very well. We're very happy with that. And also an open communication, because I think in every development these days, and that's we really have to stop fighting private and public. We have to stop this. It's becoming ridiculous. No, it's every time you go to a city hall to ask something, you're seen as the devil in person.
As an intruder.
Yes, and. First of all, I'm a guest in your country, and I will always stay a guest in your country. So I have to oblige by all, let's say, the nice way you receive us, and that's very important for me. I'm not here to colonize and to say how it has to be done. It's also very, very clear. But again, communication has to get better. There is a way we can help each other. We also have knowledge. The city has knowledge. Of course, we are there for let's say to make a business run. The city is there more for the quality of people, but they also have to make their business run. Otherwise, the whole city collapses. They need also money for public transport. They need money for investing in parks. There is an open goal there to use, and I think this is the only thing we would request to all the authorities today. Let's sit together. Okay, if you do not agree with a certain development, let's sit together with what you would agree with. And that's what we're trying to do, and that's so difficult. That's so difficult to convince the people of that you're here to build qualitative developments. I don't understand why. Sometimes I'm afraid to say I'm a developer even these days. And but yeah, it's funny. But I have to be honest. The last 3 years, it really took a lot of my energy.
I have this story. I won't say the name of the person that told me the story. He's a constructor in Romania, one of the big ones. Yeah. And he went to discussion with the actual mayor of Bucharest, the mayor of the municipality of Bucharest, so not from the districts. And this guy is leading a company who is also involved in developments.
Okay.
Not only in construction for some other developers, also does his own developments.
Yeah.
And the first question of the mayor, again, the story is almost apocryphal. Maybe it was not exactly in this form in reality. So Mr. Nicu Șordan, if we are wrong, we invite you here to say your opinion.
That would be nice. That would be really very nice.
His first question to this guy was, are you a constructor or a developer? The first question.
You see?
So are you talking from the position of a constructor or of a developer?
Yeah, that's a pity.
And he said, I'm a really small developer, so you can count on me as a constructor. And his answer, the mayor's answer was, okay, now let's talk.
Well, yeah, it's
this is not normal.
It's a pity. It's a pity. I think again, I've reached out my hands many times. Let's sit together. Let's talk. Let's see. Like we come back to Citizen, a project like Citizen that needs kindergartens, that needs schools, even needs small production. I would say. We talk about retail, but I see people who make bicycles or repair bicycles. I see people who make costumes. I see people. We have an old building that we want to refurbish again. It's an old forge. It's an absolutely amazing building, not protected, but an amazing building. That we want to make a food court, but not the food court with the usual suspects, but really local chefs. That's what we want to have. Local chefs who want to start a business, who create some amazing food. You see it in every big city there.
Yeah.
That we have it in Bucharest now. We're thinking about it to do it, but really, and that creates life, and life creates a nice environment. And when you have a nice environment, your project goes better. It's all connected to each other. And if the city hall would ask us, okay, we give you the permit for the project, but we need so much money to invest in public transport, that's something that we can discuss about. And no, today it's seen, no, it's how do you call it? It's money under the table. No, it's not. You, as a city, you can request money to invest in your public transport or parks. What we see in Belgium today, we had a law where you needed 2 parkings per apartment. Mm-hmm. Then they changed to 1. And they also say, okay, if you don't construct them, you just pay 20,000 euro per parking that you do not construct, and you pay to the city, and the city uses this money to invest in public transport or something else.
It's actually a really good idea.
It's very simple, no?
Yeah.
And the second thing then also for the what they also did, which I also presented to certain politicians, lands that are not being used or buildings that are empty, you pay a higher tax on them. So that's way that you block anybody who just wants to buy a piece of land and do nothing with it.
Just keep it for speculation.
Just keep it for speculation, which again is bad for the city because it pushes out developments.
Yeah.
You just tax them triple, quadruple, 5 times.
This is happening in Belgium?
Yes, for sure. And it works perfectly. So people are looking to say, okay, we have an empty building, what do we do? Either we're going to do new development, or we're going to refurbish it, or we're going to put people inside, and then this tax falls back to the normal one, which is in fact a very simple and good regulation to implement. You see a lot of empty buildings. Okay, we have buildings with a lot of legal issues, but you see a lot of empty buildings in Bucharest also, which are there just because of speculation. Just people say, okay, I'll buy a piece of land, I'll leave it there for another 15 years, and then my children come up and pick all the money. That's not the way to develop a city.
It's in technical terms, it's called free riding.
Yeah,
you get the benefits from a work that you did not do.
Yeah.
And in the end, who was normally the beneficiary?
Yeah.
Normally the people that worked in order for the area to develop and in the end for your plot to be more valuable. This is a theory that does not stand current politically designed public administration, because the guys that are issuing the laws are the guys that have the plots of land and have the direct interest.
That's of course that's possible. But these are very simple and easy ways to make a city better. Yeah, it's very simple. And unfortunately, I do not see them. The only thing I see is stop. So you're doing wrong. One question I would like to ask Mr. Nico Jordan is, and I didn't have the chance to do it, but show me an example of what you think is a good development in Bucharest. Just one. Show me. You say, this is the way I believe that the future of the city should be developed.
This is actually a good idea. You move from, I'm not allowing you to do anything, to, okay, tell me in your perspective, what's the right way of doing it?
Yeah, so the last 15 to 20 years, which development do you say, now, this is what I like, and this is how I see the future of the city? And I will study it, I will look at it. But is there one? That's the question.
Okay. You are more than welcome to answer to this question, Mr. Nico Jordan, but also all the other people that are watching and experiencing, the experience of our podcast. Just answer your perspective. Yeah. What do you think about how the new developments should be done? And maybe if you share this video, it will come to the mayor's ears, so maybe you can help us.
Yeah, that would be helpful. It's a very simple question.
It's actually a very good one. The beauty lies in simplicity.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing is you don't stop traffic because there are a few drunk drivers. That's also what you do. Huh?
Yeah. So, exactly.
I remember I told Didier, I think a few days ago, he's trying to kill the rekin by draining the sea.
So you kill all the other fish.
You kill everything. No,
yeah,
that's too bad. But okay.
Probably his perspective is that most of the Romanian developers, so let's say most of the developers in Bucharest have bad intentions.
Yeah.
And he puts everybody in the same.
Yeah, but I have to be very honest. It was necessary. If you walk around Bucharest, you see a lot of things that you say, how the hell got this permitted? Exactly. We also see it. It's clear. and they needed to clear house, completely understandable. And I think that was one of the reasons I was very happy he was elected even. And then we say, okay, we fight with the same arms. You need the 20 or 25% greenery, depends on the location. You need this, you need that. Okay, finally, we all fight with the same arms. Okay, but we've been waiting now for 3 years. It's time to get things going again. You do not... one of the people from the urbanism told me one day, our house is so rotten that we have to break it down and restart from the foundations. And I told him, look, you're right, but it's not your house. People are living in your house. People are living in your house. So what are you going to do? You're just going to put them outside and say, okay, I'll restart? You cannot do that. It's a living city. You have to work with what you have. You cannot go tabula rasa like the modernists did, and also in the communist era. They just wiped away a whole part of the city and built the blocks in a certain way. That's without respect of the past.
I remember from Didier, last time he was with us, that you had this problem in which you planned Citizen, the project in Gliwice, to be mostly for, let's say, mixed use, like a park hotel, something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And with the proximity to the subway station,
Yes.
it's normal for a project in this kind of locations and with this destination not to be obliged to have such a huge parking, one or two parkings per apartment, because you want to motivate people not to use their car.
Exactly.
How do you solve this? Because in the end, the law says in Bucharest that you need to deliver one parking per unit under 100 square meters and two above. But by doing this, you basically oblige the developers to build them, oblige the clients then to pay for them because the stock needs to be sold. And by doing this, you oblige basically the people to have a car because if you paid 15,000 euro plus VAT for parking, it's better to put it into use somehow.
Exactly, I agree. First of all, as I mentioned before, we're guests in your country and we have to oblige your laws. So it's a national law, I think, to have this. I think there's one parking per
in residential, yes, but
so
in apart hotels, I think it's 60%.
Yeah,
at least in the touristic cities.
Yes, that's true. Again, so we have to oblige the law. So we have to build the parkings. We took them into account in our feasibility. Do I like to build them? Hell no, really. I think it's a waste of money.
Exactly.
What will happen with those in 20 years? And we always talk about ESG and sustainability. So we're putting all this concrete into the ground, which maybe in 20 years will have no use anymore because we're talking about car sharing. I know this is a very delicate point in Romania, the car.
No, it's delicate because through our laws, we make people happier to use them.
Yeah, it's also true. Yeah.
I saw many projects in Paris or in, I think in Munich, which don't oblige the developers to build the parkings if it's in the zero area, say very, very central, because they understand that by obliging, if they oblige them, people would use the cars, and with all these cars put in one central location, the traffic will go crazy.
Yeah. So I'm in Bucharest. Normally, I use Bolt or Uber. I think it's very, very useful. To take a car and to stand in traffic for 3 hours, I think nobody likes that. I personally don't like it. Or some people do because they can do their phone calls again, but which is also not legal, I would say. But again, the cars, I think it's a real point of discussion, and somebody should take this into account that we have to stop doing that. If you look at Bucharest in the evening, again north to south, it's
crazy.
It's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
Nobody likes it. Everybody gets nervous. Everybody honks their horns. You get a lot of aggressivity. So again, but how do we do it? I think first of all, the politician who does it is political suicide, honestly, because people love their car, and I understand also why. It's freedom. It's you can take your car whenever you want. You go wherever you want. You can go to the mountains.
You see, somehow the actual mayor of Bucharest has done it well by putting this tax on parking in the major boulevards in the city. And this is one thing for which I congratulate him. I was expecting that.
Yeah.
A lot needs to be done so far, but the start he started these things.
I think that's a very, very good point. Tax parking outside of the, let's say, outside public parking, tax it at a higher rate. Look at other cities, everybody does it. Even in the city where I'm living in, 80,000 people, the biggest revenue for the city is the parking today.
Can you imagine that?
And you have free 15-minute parking. If you're 16 minutes, you're fined. And I'm talking about 25, 30, 40 euros for every fine. So it works very well. And people are using less and less cars, but of course it also needs, again, money for infrastructure to build public parkings. You need money for that. Again, I would be very happy to say I don't have to build these underground parkings, and I would gladly offer that money to the city hall to build a public parking. Really. That's not only used for my development, but for the whole city. So some problems can be solved quite easily, and I think it even exists, that law, where you can in fact give money not to build parkings, but nobody knows how to do it. So it exists somewhere. There's like a contract between a city hall and a private investor. I heard about it in Cluj, but nobody knows how to do it, because I think there's not even an account to put the money in or something. It's very strange.
Okay, so we are in the baby level in our evolution.
No, you're not. I think the future for Romania is amazing.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I was just saying about the level in which you are in our evolution. So
but
we just started doing things better.
I remember in my country that we also had a period like that, where every development had to be really to the dot correct. It's a period you have to go through. I'm also aware of that. Once you get through it, it will get better.
So many things to talk, so little time. I have like 15 questions here, but we won't have time. We'll have time only for maybe 2 or maybe 3.
Yes or no questions? We can.
Yes or no. To finish with this Timișoara, Cluj or Bucharest question, which one delivers better? As far as I can see, Timișoara is closer to your heart.
Timișoara is a very nice city. It's because you're naturally attracted to a city where you can have an open communication. So Timișoara is very close to my heart. I love Cluj also. I think Cluj is also amazing. Bucharest, I think is absolutely fabulous. Really, not only from development point of view, but I really think it's a difficult city. You had so much influences on the city. If you look at the old Bucharest, that was a wonderful city, a small Paris, no? But then, of course, you had the communism. They took away a part. Then you had Ceausescu, who said, okay, I have another vision. I put another master plan over the city. So there's the whole mix, and that makes it, for me, very, very vibrant. For a lot of people, difficult to read, but I think it's very vibrant.
There's a movie on Netflix called Flavors of Romania. You heard of it?
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, also the second season.
I didn't see the second season.
It's magnificent.
Really?
He goes again into all 8 historical regions of Romania.
Yeah.
I went up to Crișana. Crișana is where Oradea sits. Yeah. Okay, and goes like Muntenia, Oltenia, Banat, Crișana. And it's amazing to see when he speaks about Timișoara and Oradea, with such amazing views. Yeah. These cities are really magnificent. Yeah. That in their history, they had to deal with 8 totally different cultures. Yeah. Even the Ottomans went up to Oradea and Timișoara. Can you imagine that? Yeah. And in the end, they managed to become so thriving. I mean, when I see Timișoara and Oradea, I go there very often. We work in Oradea with Prima Development, the biggest developer there. I see every time I go there, something new happening. A new bridge, a new crossing. Something happens. Yeah. Bucharest didn't have, the luck of being closer to the west. It was closer to the south and east. So we needed to manage all these things. Turks, Greeks, no problem with their cultures, but during the history there were some leaders that didn't want the well-being of the provinces in which they had business. So probably we're gonna need 10 to 20 more years in Bucharest to get to the point in which you can say Bucharest is a thriving city.
I think you're absolutely right. The seeds are there.
Yeah.
There's a melting pot of cultures that's also here in Bucharest. We all love, I love Istanbul also, which is again a melting pot and a more difficult city to manage than Bucharest, I would say. But the melting pot is there, and that makes an opportunity to make an amazing city. I hope to live to see it.
You're actually contributing to it.
Yeah.
For one of the two questions remaining, I would like to go a bit, on a higher ground. You come from Belgium. I know from many people that are involved in real estate development in Belgium that the permitting has, a long history of like 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Process for major developments inside the major cities.
Yeah.
So it's something that you basically are used to it somehow. How did Belgium manage to solve these issues in the end?
That's a very, very good question. I think we have 7 years, but it's not only Belgium. I think Europe is a bit sick in that bed today. Permitting is too long. It takes you longer to get a permit for a project than to build it. And then, something is wrong here. No, it's absolutely wrong. Is it a lack of willingness? Again, I call it, we went from the NIMBY culture, not in my backyard. And now we're in Belgium, we're in banana now. So Banana Republic, I call it, so built absolutely nothing anywhere near anybody. This is where we are today. People always opposed to change, and development means change to a certain area that affects people that live there, and people, I think, naturally opposed to that. And as long as we keep on giving all the people their input in a certain way, you will never come to an agreement. You need people with power, you need people with vision. If they have a vision and they can express that vision and show to the people it will be better, I think that's necessary. For the moment, we want to please everybody, and that's impossible in development. You cannot please everybody. You cannot please every individual if you do a new development in a street or on a certain location. There will be somebody who's that's somebody who loves biodiversity who say, no, we have this sort of flower, I don't want you to build there. Okay, I agree, but there's also the common purpose of building. We had it on the Belgian seaside. We had this Atlantic wall, we call it, which is completely oriented to the north. That would be impossible in Romania because
Knokke, right?
Knokke, and you have the whole area is one big Atlantic wall. They all want to see the sea, and then suddenly they said, okay, no, we have to preserve everything. Now we have to preserve the small part of dunes that's still between those areas. Okay, yeah, you can do that, and they did it. But they
find more dunes in Dubai if they want.
Well, and they completely. The swing completely went to the other side, and that's where we are now. Waiting 7-8 years for a permit is not okay. Let's be honest. Let's sit around the table. It's not okay. Maybe artificial intelligence will solve it at a certain time. No, you introduce a permit, and artificial intelligence will say it's according to the law or not, because it's also subjective, and that's the whole part. Somebody, if you present a project, somebody says, "Oh, I don't like that architecture, so I don't like that project." That has nothing to do with urban planning. Urban planning is public space, streets, height, width, shadows. This is what urban planning is about. And now if you have to introduce, like in Romania, PUZ, then you have to show renderings and how the buildings will look. That's not up to the Urbanistic Commission. That's a building permit. That's a step further. And it's the same in Belgium. It's actually the same in Holland, the same in Germany. If I hear now in Germany also you need 6 years for an industrial development. Okay, it's a problem everywhere. I think really the politicians have to look into themselves and say, how far do we go?
So this is the current reality of Europe. But in the meantime, almost every person in the planet would love to live in Europe. Mm-hmm. Even Americans, even Canadians, most of the Asians, most of the Africans, and I don't know about the South Americans and Australians, but probably many of them would love to. So everybody would love to live in Europe, but Europe does not want to build so fast anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And in the meantime, there's also climate change, who says that most of the northern and central part of Africa and most of the Middle East will start having issues with heating.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And where would these people go? Which is which place on the world is closest to them and the finest to live?
Yeah.
Of course, is Europe.
Yeah, Europe is still.
Actually, this is things maybe you, the guys that are watching know more, or you've been looking to on this subject. Migration of people from Africa and Middle East is happening as we speak.
Yes.
Not at the pace that we had in 2015, 2016, when was the major problem with Angela Merkel. Remember?
For sure.
But climate change, is slowly cooking. Slowly cooking.
Yeah, it is. We still, I think, Europe is still a very nice place to be in. We have a lot of culture. We have tradition. We have history. We have everything that man wants. We have jobs. We have work. That's also very important. But saying that we're in a safe place, I would not say. We see a lot of changes, and that's also, as a developer, that's worrying. The totalitarian regimes are increasing. Look at what Putin is doing. Look at China. I think it's a real big issue. How far is he going to push towards the Romanian border? Putin, I do not know.
Probably to stop around the Dnipro river, the Dnieper. Hopefully,
I cannot see. I wouldn't believe his words. But again, Europe is. But we have to be very aware that this is fragile and it's not everlasting. Again, we have to re-densify the cities. We need to give place to our people. That's something I'm also been discussing with a lot of Romanian people and about the developing. I think it's important that you can create jobs for your children so they can work close to you, so you can have still a nice relation, not for your children to go outside of the country to work, not see them, not see your grandchildren anymore. I think that's a very big part of quality of life. And we should invest in those, and the whole of Europe has to invest in those. We have to invest in public healthcare, like infrastructure, all those elements that will make us stronger.
But coming back to this issue, so most of the Europeans love Europe.
Yep.
We don't have this migration like it used to be, Canada, US, as 20 or 30 years ago or more. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming to Europe, moving to Europe, and Europe does not build at the pace at which attracts people. Yeah. We have an example in Canada, Justin Trudeau's policy with migration that increased the prices in places like Toronto or Vancouver up to the sky. Yeah. And now it's almost uninhabitable by people with even upper medium income. Yeah. How can these things materialize in Europe? And Romania is part of Europe, so we share probably the same potential trends.
Yeah, that's. I think that's one of the main challenges, not only for Europe but for the whole world. Is how do we develop cities? I know Jan Gehl, that's a famous urbanist, also once said, "We know more about the living habitats of the chimpanzee than we know the living habits of a human being in the city," and it's absolutely true. We're lacking behind, but we're progressing very fast, but it will need a conscious leadership, knowing that cities will keep on attracting people from everywhere. The jobs are here, the quality of life should be here. So people will be coming. The only thing, if you stop developing a city, the only thing you will diminish is the quality of life for those people, and you will increase the price. So that's terribly bad.
Get two wrongs. From this decision.
Yes. And you have to densify. I know people are afraid to densify, but densifying doesn't mean that... densifying is not a bad word. You densify and you create more open space for everybody to use. That's the way you densify. But okay, you have to go higher. You have to build higher. You have to get out, let's say, the dirty industries from within your city. You have to move them in another location. And you have to invest in parks and greenery and infrastructure that people can. Everybody loves New York. I think, okay, it's not Europe, but everybody loves New York. And they walk around and say, oh, this is amazing. And look at the city has developed. But there, if you ever saw, the buildings are 6 meters from each other and they're 150 meters high. Is it bad? No, we all love New York. So I think densification is a word that sounds bad to all urbanists and to all politicians, but that's the way to go. The only way to go.
I think you also need to have a bit of courage. Somehow I understand the mayors of the big cities in Romania, like Bucharest and Cluj, that they have this continuous pressure from the public to deliver something visible.
Exactly.
Yeah. They have the constant pressure of the budgets. They need to create money in order to invest in the visible things for the public. And they have also pressure from the business environment who needs to be, kind of incentivized to stay there. Otherwise, why would they do it when they stay? So it's not easy in the end.
Yeah. But again, creating public awareness is so much important. If you give me an example for the project in Timișoara, what we did. It was a very hard decision that day. We said, okay, we want to develop this 1st of June project, and we want to do an architectural master planning competition.
For the guys that don't know, 1st of June is the name of the factory in Timișoara.
Yeah.
Who speed about here.
We will do an architectural competition. So we send out 10 invitations to international and national offices who are specialized in urban planning. And that decision we took, we said, okay, there will be only one person from Speedwell in the jury of 10 people.
Okay, it's interesting.
Very scary. I have to. I was in the jury as an architect, but all the rest, there were people who had nothing to do with the project, people from public, somebody from Monuments was even there. So we said, okay, we leave it open. It was according to the ORA, so the Order of Architects rules for a competition. And we said, okay, we're going to do the points. So everybody had to send in his proposal anonymously through a notar. So we didn't know who was entering at a certain time. And they had to make 6 panels with their proposals. And we said, okay, the one who wins is the one who wins. So I didn't have any choice in that.
It's very courageous.
Yeah, but that creates willingness also with the people, and you get some from different departments. People come in also from the surroundings. We even invited people also there from the surroundings to give their opinion, and that's how you create you massage a certain way a project is proposed. I understand a lot of people say, okay, oh my God, they're going to build this tower next to me. What am I going to do? Talk to the people. Maybe you can move. Maybe I should take that level down. But talk to people. We are not we're not like Rikin, as you say. We're just people. We're just people trying to build something that's qualitative and That's,
talking about courage, I can help of remembering the courage of the mayor in Barcelona, a city which is again very terrible in terms of traffic, even with its right urbanization, like very squarely, all done very squarely. They said, okay, we need to get the cars off the city.
Yeah,
that's very courageous.
Yeah.
Someone who tried to do this in Bucharest might end up dead. I mean, dead so. Politically.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And what did they do? They started basically choosing crossings of roads, crossroads, in the center of the city, in the most expensive part of the city, in Exemple district, which is basically the most expensive part of the district, and turned it into public areas.
Yes.
Basically remove the cars, and now they became pedestrian areas. They did once, they did twice. I don't know the exact number now, but many of the crossroads within the district now are pedestrian areas. Do you think this could fit Bucharest?
For sure.
And people of Bucharest?
For sure. I think it's a great idea. And it's a proven concept again. It's not something that you say, okay, we'll try it. You will get a lot of swear words, I agree, and a lot of taxi driver and Uber drivers will try to kill you, as you said, and they
politically,
politically, of course, and they will swear at you in every possible way. Until then, in 2 or 3 weeks, they get used to it, and then they take their kids to take a walk in the city, and they say, "Oh, I'm not. I can walk on the pedestrian area without passing between cars." And then you see this always when this happens and the street becomes let's say public or pedestrian area, then you see it coming it almost immediately. Then you get the coffee shops there,
exactly,
you get the terraces outside. Bucharest has an amazing weather also in summertime, and it starts to live.
And that's very interesting. Then even if you take the cars off and the parkings and stuff, and you say, okay, this basically won't get the people there. It's actually the opposite. The entire real estate within the area it becomes more valuable because people actually are coming, coffee shops are opening, and
and people can. If you look at the plan of Bucharest, also let's say the area from Piazza Victoriei to the north. It's almost all green. It's like green finger that goes through the city. If you could connect that with pedestrian areas and you make this whole pedestrian area into the city, I think it's an amazing potential. But again, maybe I will go for city architect one day. I don't know.
I would vote for you.
First, I have to speak the language, I think.
You're close. You know a couple of words already. So I would vote for removing the cars of Bucharest. I mean, not removing entirely, but making pedestrian areas and making the entire Cala Victoriei pedestrian.
Yeah, I agree.
I know that some people say, and how we're going to cross and have to turn right or left. Exactly. But people will stay there and it will improve the life of the people of Bucharest. Jan, we definitely got past our hour of podcast. We have 1 hour and a half already.
Oh, excuse me.
And we're gonna get. No, I really love the discussion. So
I talk too much, no?
Actually, this is the moment in which you know that you have structure and you've totally forgot about the structure.
That's a story of my life.
But actually, I really enjoyed it, and I would like to leave you with some traditional already traditional questions on the concept. Is the concept questionnaire 7? Basically 7 questions. Are, let's say, more to the artist in Jan de Meyer, not to the professional. And the first question is, what would you reply to my grandmother if she asks you, what do you do?
Difficult one.
I know that you don't know my grandmother, but let's suppose that you know.
I would say sunt rechin immobiliar. No.
Don't say that.
No. No, I would say I'm developing. How do you call it? It's a difficult answer. What am I doing? I'm creating places to remember.
Okay. I like that. Put that in a slogan.
Okay.
I saw it in your eyes. Yeah. You really live for it.
Yeah, for sure.
What advice would you give to your child who wants to make real estate investment?
Very simple. Buy with Speedwell. No. No. I think the tradition.
I saw that coming.
The tradition stays the same. I think location is important, but ESG is important. I would ask. Give your father 5 minutes, and I will try to explain you what I think is important.
So he's lucky that he has you as his father.
I think everybody should look at his own self, how you want to live, how you want to proceed with your life. It's something I cannot answer, but for real estate, it's still location. Now these days, again, sustainability becomes hugely important. Without that, I wouldn't do it anymore. But what I see with the youth, that's maybe some different, is that they're becoming more and more nomads. They want to sticking to one place is not as something that was in our time very important, but I see these days is not so important for them. So they look completely different at real estate than we do.
This is something that maybe we do a podcast on this topic. I think we are in the step of the evolution in which we want the nomad kind of living. We want, many of the youngsters want. Exactly. Because the sense of freedom. But what the young generation doesn't understand yet is the fact that freedom lies also in structure. Actually, structure gives you freedom. So by finding, let's say, the unique way in which you want to contribute to this world might give you more freedom
Yep.
by doing it and keep on executing the stuff
Yeah.
with structure than, hanging around in every city in the world just because you can and you want, because you put this etiquette of nomad, capitalist or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people still the garden, children, house is still the dream, the American dream, but just a dream to have that. But I do not object to young people say, okay, we see also a bigger evolution, but that's maybe also for another podcast. And the rental market is starting to grow a lot, just also because of that. People don't want to commit too long, too fast. We see it also in the way they work. Yeah, it's a different podcast. We don't have time.
What advice would you give to your grandparents? I don't know if they are living.
No, they passed away.
Passed away,
unfortunately.
sorry for that.
No problem.
But let's say that you meet a person around 90 or 100 years old.
Yeah.
You know that there are forecasts that say that the average lifespan in Europe will get to 100 up to the end of this century.
So
That-
I still have some time then, no?
Yeah.
I hope we have the permit before.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
If we have average lifespan of 100 years, that means that we're gonna have people living up to 150 probably.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So what I have to give them an advice?
Yeah. What advice would you give to a person at the age of 100 who wants to make a real estate investment or an investment in general, let's say?
Real estate investment. I think what I do see is a big issue with people getting older is the loneliness. You see a lot of old people who just live by themselves. Their wife or their husband died. The children are moving out. They're living in maybe another country, another city. So the loneliness is a very important part. One of the ideas I had is that you should build a house where you can grow old with your friends. But not an old man's house. I mean, really with your friends, and in fact, everybody sells his own house, and then they invest together in one house, and you get all the comfort from there. You can have a nurse if you want or something. You just spread the costs. But I think loneliness is a big part, and that's why I think if you buy a real estate as an older person, make sure you're connected to the young people, and because you can. In fact, you can be a lot for those young people. When they go to work and can take care of the children, makes purpose in life, makes it good. You go downstairs, you sit in the park, you sit on a bench, you meet people, you talk to people. Don't go and just sit in your apartment alone. I think that's very important. You can have the penthouse in any location, but if you're there alone, then I think it's a pity.
I think this is key to longevity and to a great life, living communities.
Yes, communities are hugely important. Yeah. And not only with old people, get the young people involved. It's very these days with IT and technology. You need a babysitter, you're together, and it's okay, suppose cities and they all live together. I need a babysitter 6 o'clock. There's an older guy who's sitting, or an older lady who doesn't have a husband anymore. Okay, I'm available, I'll come to you. It's very easy these days, no? It's so simple. Yeah, create communities. Yeah.
What book would you recommend to every Romanian?
Well, not specific to every Romanian. Maybe I go back to real estate. For me, the book of Jan Gehl, City for People, is very, very important. And then also David Sim, Soft City. Soft City is also a very open way to explain how a city should evolve, especially about the human scale and everything. It is also on Netflix. Jan Gehl has a movie on Netflix also. Look for it. City for People is a movie. Yeah. I don't know if it's on Netflix. I think maybe it's on Apple TV or something. But it's a movie. Yeah, you can find it.
This is interesting.
And also some good examples about how cities that got destroyed got rebuilt. Very interesting. Yeah.
Thanks. With these questions I always ask, what book would you recommend to every Romanian? But actually, the question is for me. What podcast would you recommend to every person or every Romanian to listen to?
I'm not a podcast connoisseur. I listen to a few Belgian ones which are not, I think it's in Dutch, excuse me.
Oh.
But I love music. For me, music is, I love any kind of music. So podcast with new releases, classical or other music, I just love. So I cannot give you any advice on that.
It's a very good answer.
And yours, of course.
Thank you. Who is your favorite Romanian?
From different points of view, respect, friends, I think. In general, I love the way Romanian people are accepting also foreigners in general. So I think you're a very loving country. I really appreciate that a lot. But if I go then to who's my favorite Romanian, then I have to go to what I also am passionate about is contemporary art. So then Brancuș was one of the first.
I saw that coming.
Yeah. One of the first influencers, I would say, existed. He was
Actually, he was.
He was, no? He was.
He was French or Romanian?
He was Romanian, no?
Yeah. Yeah, our French say that it's French.
Of course. Yeah. But he studied with Rodin, I think, also. But
yeah,
the way he, let's say, sold himself was quite amazing. He was a smart influencer.
Yeah, he was one of the best of the last century.
If they had Instagram that period, he would have been
probably
huge.
He would beat Dorian Popa.
Exactly. Who's Dorian Popa?
You don't know. You don't want to know. Sorry for you. Okay, and the last question: Europe, North America, or Asia?
I have to stick with Europe.
I was sure about that.
And I would stick with Romania.
Okay, that's even better.
I agree.
Jan, you're one of the people that I appreciate a lot in the industry. Congratulations for what you guys are doing there. Yeah. You're more than welcome to continue our discussion. I think we have, from the total of 16 questions, we have 15 left.
So we did good. Well, but we had a nice talk. I love it. Let the discussion grow free.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'm taking I'm taking it onto you to have a meeting here together with Mr. Nicoșor and talk about urban development.
I would love to.
Me too.
That would be amazing. Yeah. You know that I want to do it this year. So up to the elections in June, we have 4 months left.
Yeah.
I'll do it, and I'll keep that in mind. I say, okay, Nicoșor, we can do it 1-to-1. But if you are okay, I don't see a problem with that. I'm gonna bring you a person who understands why you're doing what you're doing and appreciates part of the policies that you are doing.
And I'm looking forward to the answer. The best development in the last 20 years, which is also from your listeners. It would nice to hear. Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to you on WhatsApp.
Perfect. Perfect.
So guys, if you enjoyed Jan De Meyer, you can find the work that he's been doing in the last 10 years on speedwell.be or .ro.
BE, still BE.
Still BE, but basically it's Europe in the end. You're gonna see all the projects Speedwell has been developing so far, and it's going to develop in the coming years. I deeply recommend. So if you guys have interest in investing in Bucharest or some other cities in which Speedwell is investing, get to see also their projects, because very good quality and it's a fair balance between the money you pay and the product that you receive. And for you guys that are watching again every week our podcast, go press that button of subscribe and share this material to your friends, because you're helping us bringing guests that help us bringing you even better and better information with every podcast that we are doing. Jan, a lot of success so far, but I wish you even more for the years to come, another decade in Speedwell's life with beautiful regeneration projects and a couple of more podcasts, because we have a lot of questions to answer to.
Mulțumesc pentru tot.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Bye.